This week on Low Earth Orbit, we review Raiders of the Lost Ark. We'll start off with no spoilers and then move on to spoiler discussion at the end. So this week on Low Earth Orbit, to celebrate getting to 50 subscribers on our YouTube channel, we're doing another retro review in the same flavor as our Fifth Element review that we did when we got, was it 20 or 25?
30.
30?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we got 30 subscribers, we reviewed The Fifth Element. This time we're doing Raiders of the Lost Ark. This came out in 1981. It's directed by Steven Spielberg, stars Harrison Ford, story by George Lucas and Philip Kaufman, and the music by John Williams. And it was super successful at the time. It's one of the highest grossing films ever made, and it won a ton of Academy Awards, including Best Art Direction, Best Film Editing, Best Sound, Best Visual Effects, and Best Sound Effects Editing, and was nominated for Best Picture. So that's a big movie.
A lot.
And in 2012, it was actually re-released to theaters as an IMAX restoration, which I went to and thought it was super cool. So Steve was telling me just before we recorded that you had actually never seen this movie. You'd seen maybe like the last scene, but you'd never seen the whole movie.
Yeah, I thought for sure I'd seen more of it, and I watched it all the way through, and I didn't recognize nothing until basically the submarine appeared.
Okay.
Oh wait,
Okay. And you've not seen it at all? You've seen pieces?
I may have seen few scenes here and there, but I've definitely never seen it all the way through. I've only seen Last Crusade and Crystal Skull all the way through.
Okay.
So I haven't seen any of the other two until seeing the first one just now.
Okay. So I've seen all the Indiana Jones movies multiple times. So
have you read the Disneyland ride?
I've done both the Disneyland ride and the Walt Disney World show.
Okay. See the multi-pass.
I know, and I have the Indiana Jones official licensed hat from Walt Disney World, so I'm a bit of an Indiana Jones fan. Okay. So I think we already know what my review is going to be. So I don't know which one of you we should start with. Maybe Steve. What did you think of Raiders?
So I had seen The Last Crusade,
okay,
which I liked a lot, or at least I watched it a long time ago. I probably liked it a lot, and so I watched it. And I watched it like in two parts, and the first part, I really liked. I'm full disclosure, I'm like a really, really big fan of like ancient Egypt, and so like the setting was great, and like I love the mystique, and all this, all the scenes that taking place. This isn't spoilers, is it? Like
maybe we should back up and explain the premise in case anyone doesn't know. So the premise of the movie, for anyone who may not know what the plot of Raiders is, it takes place in the 1930s. Indiana Jones is an archaeologist who is a professor at a college, but also goes out and acquires these antiquities and does so in a very swashbuckling sort of adventure-y way. And he gets approached by CIA Army intelligence basically saying, we've intercepted some Nazi communiques and they're up to something very suspicious and we want you to go check it out. Is basically the no spoiler version of the plot. And so then things ensue. So anyway, you were saying, so the ancient Egypt and all of the settings.
Yeah. So quickly, they end up in Egypt, and I love all the setup to it, and that first kind of bit of exploration they do, and then they like find some things, there's some clues for some more things, and I don't know, like that. I like the first act a lot, and then I don't know. From there on out, it's an action movie, really. And action movies aren't really my thing. And I mean, as far as action movies go, it was, it's kind of funny and entertaining along the way. So, I enjoyed it as much as I do any movies in this genre. And it helps. It has Harrison Ford in it, and he's goofy and entertaining and kind of endearing. So, I liked it. I didn't love it. I mean, I liked Last Crusade a lot more.
Okay.
But mostly because it had
Sean
Connery, and the Sean Connery Harrison Ford like dynamic was amazing. I love that. And so even like this, like the long drawn action scenes in Lost Crusade are just absolutely hilarious in ways that like Raiders doesn't quite reach, because it doesn't have that interplay between those characters. So maybe if I hadn't seen Last Crusade, before, I might have had a bit more higher opinion. But overall it was, I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. But I kind of knew going in that it was an action movie, so that helped set my expectations, the right level. So
okay, cool.
So here's my dilemma. I am very aware of the fact that if you poll somebody who had grown up in the 80s and you ask them, what is your favorite movie? Mm-hmm. You basically have a 50-50 chance of hitting one or the other of Empire Strikes Back or Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Probably.
And in fact, to the point that I forget what there's a site where you can basically rate all your favorite movies of all time in like bubble sort style, kind of like Netflix, but you're just rating your movies. And I think they statistically don't allow due to statistics putting those two movies against each other because they consider them too close.
Oh wow!
So these are like the two holy, you don't touch, you don't question, whatever movies. So, and I had never seen it before, and I had seen Last Crusade. Like I said before, like I actually really, really like Last Crusade for the exact reasons that you mentioned, Steve. Is that the playing back and forth between Sean Connery and Harrison Ford? It's awesome, and just all the sort of the adventure aspect, like all the different places they go, rather than just staying in the one place. They do all these other things, and I've seen that movie many times. I've never seen Temple of Doom, so I was expecting Raiders to be like just sort of a slightly less refined version of Last Crusade, and that was not the experience I had at all. And I think maybe my problem is that I was expecting, in retrospect, this is probably my mistake. I did not like this movie, and I think probably the mistake I had is that I was expecting to have a current day kind of like sense of realism.
Okay.
In that setting, or something close to Last Crusade. Even Last Crusade is kind of like cartoony and stuff, but there's a lot of moments in Raiders where I was just like, this is like cartoon logic that's playing out. Like there's all these, like the monkey thing. I could not get my head around what was going on with the monkey, the little like thief monkey, whatever. And he's like, he somehow like is in on the thing. Like he's like spying or something, and like he's communicating with this guy with the eye patch, and then
the guy with the eye patch is like, you're in cartoon land instantly.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before that, I mean, there's the guy with the first Nazi that they run across, like in the tavern.
Yeah.
Like then you're totally like off the deep end of cartoon land, and that, for me that helps up my expectations. I'm like, okay, I know where we're at.
At that point, at that point, I should have calibrated at that point, but. There's so much. It honestly, it's almost like the level of when I think of he touches the amulet or whatever it is, and his hand burns. Which, by the way, I don't think they ever explain what's going on there. Right? Is it just because he's a Nazi and it's like a sacred?
No, it's because it's hot.
In the fire. Yeah, fell in the fire.
Oh, I totally. Okay, I didn't realize. Okay, because she picked it up afterwards and she was fine.
Well, she put it with a cloth.
Okay, I thought that was some sort of like occult thing that was going on. That makes a little bit more sense now. But okay, so the action scenes, I actually had the exact opposite reaction. I think for the most part. I liked the last 40 minutes of the movie much more than the first hour or whatever it is, because the set piece things are actually really super well done. Like having the I don't want to spoil anything, I guess we're into spoilers, but the set piece things are fun because it just keeps going and going. You're like, oh my god, this crazy thing's happening. But early on, like and I feel like I'm breaking people's hearts, but I know this is a lot of people's favorite movies, but honestly, the problem for me is that like I think it's because so many movies have come after this that use this as a template, and also now we know what all the tricks they used back in the day. So like when you're seeing an action scene and you're hearing these like really like goofy gunshot things like pew pew, and it's like that's not what a gun sounds like actually, and they're all these like the fight scenes are just. You can see the choreography. I couldn't buy it even for a second. And had I known that going in, I think I probably would have been a little bit prepared, better prepared for it. But I just couldn't get past that. And here, I think I probably know now how Steve feels during like space movies, where he's like, all these inaccurate things are happening. Because I have to talk to you about the snake pit thing. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. First off, let's start with the basics. So how long had this thing been sealed? Like thousands of years, right? Yeah. All these snakes, they're fine. They're just eating nothing, no light, air, water, anything. They've just been there for thousands of years. A lot of them, in fact. I don't know what's going on with that.
Snakes. Maybe they come and go.
There's there were the holes in the wall.
Right, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And they all stayed in there, right? For some reason. So there's that, and then he makes this one of the I forget the guy, their like cohort, whatever his name is, the guy.
Sala?
Yes, exactly. So he makes some comment. He looks down in the pit and he's like, "Oh, they're asps. Very, very, very dangerous." I think you never see a single asp for the rest of that scene. They have Burmese pythons, they have boa constrictors, and the like perfect moment is he's up on the statue. This isn't really a spoiler. It's just a thing that happens. But he's up on a statue and he grabs the snake. And when he picks it up, it's a Burmese python. And he drops it on her and it like falls on her. By the time it somehow from being launched from the sky down to her shoulders, it morphs into a ball python. Totally different species of snake. So, and that whole, the way they get out of that situation, like it's literally plywood that they knock over. It's supposed to be stone. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't take this. So it was very hard. I mean, I loved Last Crusade, and I was really expecting that level. And it was up until the last 40 minutes. I was really having a hard time getting through this. Yeah. Harrison Ford actually does a really good job acting considering the context, but the other acting is just so bad. It's so bad by today's standards. Sure. I'm sure at the time, I understand that if you'd never seen anything like this, all these other movies that have come since, you hadn't seen those, it would blow your mind because it's just like all these special effects I'd never seen and this whole swashbuckling thing, like it was brand new, right? But without that padding it, without that sort of lifting everything else up,
the newness
of it, it's really hard to get through. I mean, I really love this idea. I really like Uncharted and like Tomb Raider, that kind of stuff. It's really fun, but I couldn't get past the acting and the all that kind of stuff. So
I wondered, did you watch it on your like giant, high quality television you have downstairs? Like I watched it on like a little tiny iPad screen on an airplane. I wonder if like some of the like production values, kind of.
I'm sure. Yeah, at the end, I mean, there are some really special effects.
I mean, the very end, like or anything that involved. Well, maybe we shouldn't say because of the spoilers, but like there were certain points where the special effects were clearly like not up to modern standards. But for the most part, like I really did not like get the plywood wall bit or any of the other like poor special effects up until close to the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Except for the one scene that takes place like halfway through with the staff, that was pretty clearly poor,
Yeah. Yeah, I think in general it was mostly practical effects. I think for a lot of stuff. The one thing in that sort of vein that does kind of get me when I watch the movie is that at the very beginning where he like swings over a gap on the whip and like he just barely grabs onto the edge and you can see like the entire wall just kind of goes maybe not solid rock. But there was another movie, a surprisingly modern movie that I was watching just a few weeks ago and I cannot remember what it was, but it was the same kind of situation where somebody had to like fall into, or no, actually it's not that modern. I think it was Romancing the Stone, which I think is actually from like 1984. But like it was the same sort of thing where somebody's supposed to like, swing into like a rock wall or something. And when they hit, you can see the stone kind of go. You're like, oh, styrofoam rock.
Print's good.
Yeah. Ship it. I think that. No, go ahead.
Actually, I was saying. So, as the one of the three of us who loves this the most, like, what is it that you love about it?
I don't know. I mean, So I don't even know the first time that I saw this movie. A long time ago when I was a little kid. And I don't know, it just has, when you're a kid, you're willing to overlook like all of the weird like production level stuff. Yeah. And you have like no expectations, that sort of thing. And it just feels like so much larger than life, like all of it, and it's like so easy to get sort of swept up in the adventure. And it does, like, when I watch it, I guess I see like, the bones of like Uncharted and Tomb Raider and like all those movies that came after it. Like, you see the template for it in there, and it's just, I don't know, it's cool, and I like just the whole way it's structured. And I don't know, just the way that like it has a sort of the slow beginning, but with like the mysterious stuff going on, and like I like all the different like locales that it goes from. We start like the jungle and like Tibet or like Egypt, and like all this different stuff. So I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's just very nostalgic for me too.
Yeah,
having
I get that.
Yeah.
The one thing I want to say is I think the scenes that do work tend to be the scene, at least for me, the scenes that work are the ones where he is alone on the screen. He's doing something, because he's honestly a much better actor than most of the other people in the movie. So when it's not, when somebody else isn't trying to be the kind of cartoony bad guy, and it's him just like when he's at the idol, right? That famous scene, right?
Oh, it's so good.
And he's so dialed into what's going on, like you believe that. Like I was able to suspend my disbelief at that point because he's doing such a good job of being in that moment, and even with the giant rock, rolling after him, that whole thing. But it's just once he starts interacting with these like completely over the top like villains, like complete like Looney Tunes, reminds me like the guy from like Roger Rabbit.
Yes, totally. Even with the glasses.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Same, little round glasses.
And it's just there's this leap of realism is suspended just so much that I can't get past that. But the thing I wanted to mention was that I think one of the things that's helped in the bottom third of the movie, the last third of the movie, is that they're not in these really confined sets, right? So they're out in these big open areas, and it's like a real car, and it's like a real plane, and but if you're in these like little fully contained, obviously they just didn't have much space or money or something. I don't know what happened, but it's
obviously a set.
Yeah, and it's so small, like that pit viper situation, right? Like it was just one room. These things are huge. Like the pyramids are huge, and even when they were pushing the brick out, apparently that was what, like, made of styrofoam or something.
I don't know.
But once they got away
from 2-ton stone, and there's
but once they got away from all that craziness and they were actually out in the real world doing like real stunts, it's like, okay, it picks up, and that's believable. And also the other thing is that at that point, a lot of times it's him just trying to like hold onto the car or something like that, or it was Harrison Ford being on the screen, being Indiana Jones, and those scenes work. I think there's a lot more of it at the end, but
yeah, I think in general a lot of the cartoonishness too comes from the fact that like it's very explicitly supposed to be the movie version of like 30s and 40s like pulp comic books.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some of that comes from, because I think the whole plot is like ripped directly from those. And and for some of these you can almost like see like the panels, right? Like especially the guy with the eye patch and the monkey and everything. You're like, oh my gosh, it's totally a cartoon character.
Yeah,
like, that
would be
the scene with
the way he holds the palm up to the camera, and like you can just imagine, the comics, like panel where that's like the almost the entire panel is just his palm of his hand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so one of the things with it kind of being the first of its kind. I don't know. I feel this way about Citizen Kane. I had to watch Citizen Kane for a film class, and I was like, oh man, this movie is supposed to be so awesome. Like whatever. You sit down, you watch it, and you're like, wow, is that really it? And and it's just for exactly the same reason, which is that like, well, it was kind of the first of its kind, and it like invented all these things, and everybody's ripped it off for like the next 80 years or whatever.
Have you guys seen Vertigo?
I haven't.
It's the same thing. I mean, it's often neck and neck. I think recently, like AFI voted it, ahead of Citizen Kane as the best, film of all time. And like, I haven't seen Citizen Kane, but I watched Vertigo recently. The same, also excited, and I was like, barely got through it. It was one of the hardest movies to watch that I'd seen, in a long time.
Because I haven't figured it out yet. It's like it's definitely they're on to something clearly, but like they haven't got all the nuances of it right.
I think sometimes when people are, kind of film buff people they're seeing it through that lens of, wow, this is before they had figured that stuff out. And like, how did they know how to do that? And there was no internet to do, how to green screen, and that if you got that sort of historical thing in your head, like it would be we're all programmers. So if we saw some, early prototype version of some Unix terminal running or something, be like, wow, that's so cool. And so when you see, they're like, where's Facebook?
Exactly.
It's useless, so
it's all just text.
I can understand why somebody who is like in that frame of mind would say Vertigo is, it was revolutionary, which by the way, I found out they've filmed some scenes at San Francisco recently. I mean, they didn't film them recently. I recently found out they filmed some scenes from Vertigo in San Francisco.
Oh, well, it takes place in San Francisco.
That's an excellent reason they would have done it. So we'll cut that part out.
Okay, so should we move on to some spoiler stuff?
Yeah, I think there's a couple scenes I want to talk about.
Okay, so we're going to move to spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, then now would be a good time for you to stop watching. But otherwise, join us for spoiler discussion. To get a hold of us, you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/LowerEarthShow. You can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/LowerEarthShow. You can find us online where you can find our archives of old episodes and all of the show notes about things that we talk about at lowerearthorbit.fm. You can also email us with anything at feedback@lowerearthorbit.fm.
So what should our next subscriber goal be for YouTube? So we hit 50 to do this episode.
Right.
So what are we asking people to help us get to? Since you are the official scorekeeper so far.
I feel like maybe we should do a stretch goal for 75.
75?
Yeah, it's big numbers.
All right, so 75, we're going on record as saying 75 we'll do another retro review.
Yeah.
If people have suggestions on what we should review, you should send them to us in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There we go. I was going to say something, I don't know why.
Okay, so on to spoilers. So what were some of the things you want to talk about?
So some of the scenes at the end I actually really liked. So the whole plane rotating thing. That I think is when the movie's at its best.
That fight scene.
The plane scene? Oh, the plane scene was one of my least favorite scenes. Oh my god!
Well, so,
like that's like as soon as that big cartoony guy walked out, I had the same thought. Like, oh, this is totally like this is one of these little vignettes straight out of the 1930s, like comic book / serial, where like this big cartoonish guy who's there for no apparent reason, just like, to just like be big and dumb and like get chopped up in the propellers in this plane and.
Sure enough,
there it happened. Like,
chick. But so the part I liked about it, this is literally going to diverge. We're ending the part of the movie Steve liked, and we're gaining the part I liked. So the thing I liked about it is that when actually the entire movie series, I think, is when it's at its best. Mm-hmm. Is when there's all these sort of like simultaneous sort of things going on, like all these different like, oh, that thing caught on fire and this guy is trying to come at me from the back and oh my God, she's still stuck in the plane. And you're like, you're trying to keep track of all these things and you kind of feel like him trying to keep track of all these things. And it feels like that thing I've brought up again and again, which is like real peril. Like she is stuck in the plane. There's this guy who weighs 80 pounds more than me back here. Another guy up there has a gun. You're like, how is he going to get out of this? Right. And then there's a little bit of like humor element added here and there, like she picks up the machine gun and starts shooting at people, and it's like, I did not see that coming. That was pretty funny. So those scenes, and then also when he's like he's trying to take control of the truck. And there's this reoccurring thing of like he knocks somebody out of the truck, and then he gets knocked out of the truck, and then and by the way, one of the major plot holes here is they're in this caravan. He takes control of the car. Mm-hmm. There's people crawling along the side of the car, clearly, getting into the van. And up front, whenever the leader guy is, he is looking back and he's like, oh, something's clearly wrong here. Yeah. Let's just keep driving. I'm sure it'll be fine. I feel you would stop the car at that point.
Well, at one point he's like gesturing to the driver to like speed up. Like, why don't they slow down?
No. It's like, what are they doing up there? They don't have phones. It's like they're sitting along. Just drive. There's so many options. And I was having so much fun watching that scene that I forgave it. But it's like, this is like, you should be fired right now.
This is action movie logic.
You are literally doing the worst thing you could be doing right now. And there's a lot of scenes too, like where they just drop them in the snake pit and they close it. It's like, all right, maybe we should have shot them, or like maybe just check the walls to see if like there are any like styrofoam bricks that they could push.
Have you seen Austin Powers? Or there's they totally lampshade that scene. Yeah, aren't you gonna like shoot them? No, it's fine. I'm sure everything will go according to plan. It's fine. I've got a gun in my room. Let's shoot them right now. No, it's fine. This is much better.
I love that. Yeah. But anyway, so I actually honestly did like the last, well, not the last 10 minutes because the effects are so bad. The final scene is like so bad, but the action scenes with the plane, I really like the plane scene. I really like the truck scene, despite the fact that it made absolutely no sense whatsoever. But actually bringing up the fact, I had never thought about this before, but you mentioned the fact that it's like based on these 30s and 40s like pulp comic thing. I can totally see that now. Like how, first off, even the villains, those would have been the villains at the time.
Yeah, totally.
In those comics. But all of the comic book logic that's like playing out, you know. And one of the things I should have said in the main review is like, in my head, what I was expecting was, because I hadn't actually seen all the Star Wars stuff until fairly recently also.
Oh, really?
And I was pleasantly surprised. Like it still felt like it really, for the most part, held up. You know, little things here and there, but like.
Did you watch the ones that have the special effects added, or did you watch the originals? Were you talking?
I think
the ones that you hadn't seen, were they the old ones or the new ones?
I don't remember for sure. Okay. I've some mix of the two. You know, I don't like. I think one of them I saw with the new special effects. One I didn't. I think the very first one, what episode?
We're talking like 4, 5, 6, not 1, 2, 3.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I did not think they would hold up, and I was surprised. Like even visually, you know, like they hold up because I think maybe part of that was because they had to create this world. You know, this thing doesn't exist.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
they have to construct the Death Star and they have to have all these things. And I was expecting that level of believability here because it was almost all the same people are involved.
Well, same, yeah. Even like the screenplay by the same writer, right? Like Lawrence, whoever's the guy who's doing the new Star Wars.
Oh, really?
I think he wrote the screenplay for this and for Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bodes well.
Yeah. So I was, you know, for whatever it's worth, I had confidence in this because of that, because I knew that like these people could do that, right? Mm-hmm. But thinking about it, and particularly with what you mentioned, which is that it's like based on this comic book logic, it's like, oh, okay, that actually makes sense. Because Star Wars clearly was not based on that.
Yeah,
at all.
totally. Yeah,
it's much more serious. And I was expecting, because I remember like when I wasn't allowed to see it, growing up, it was like, oh, it's too scary. And that's what I've always had in my head is that but it's other than the last 5 minutes.
Not really.
That's not really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Last 5 minutes is scary when you're a kid, though.
Yeah. Now it's just bad.
Now it's just goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's just weird. Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite scene, being the fan that you are?
I just like that there's a bunch of like funny little parts in it. Like, I like the part where there's like the whole fight in the marketplace and the guy comes out with the sword. He's doing all the tricks with the sword and he just shoots him. Yeah. And I know everybody's heard this piece of trivia, but like apparently Harrison Ford like had the flu, like he was sick that day and like could not do the scripted sword fight sequence. And so he just shot him instead. And so they added the sound effect in and were like, screw it, we'll just do it. Like, and there's another really great part where it's, I think just after they escape from the plane exploding or something.
The fruit thing going up?
Oh, the fruit thing's really good too. Now what was it? Oh no, it's between the plane and the car chase scene, right? Okay. So there's like one little tiny little bit where it's like Indy and Marion and Sala and he's like, oh, I'm gonna get that Ark back. So I was like, how are you gonna do that? And Indiana Jones says, I don't know, I'm making this up as I go. That is not his line. Like that is not the line. No, he was supposed to have a line that actually explains like what he's about to go do, but Harrison Ford couldn't remember his line, so he just ad-libbed it, and it's great. Yeah. And you can see, who's it? John Rhys Davies. He sort of like has this little smirk on his face, and he's like, "That's not your line."
Those are actually, honestly, those are the moments when he's doing the action / comedy thing. Yeah. He is like the template for other movies that
spot on.
He's so good at that. And even like in the more scripted situation where he like tries to put a uniform on and doesn't fit, he like beats up the next guy that comes and that one fits, Yeah. Those are the parts I really, really like.
Yeah.
And actually it's kind of the sappy part, but I actually kind of dug the little scene where he's like all torn up and whatever. And they're in the boat. Yeah. And she's like, well, where the hell does it not hurt? It's like, right here.
Yeah.
Those little things.
That reminds me where she flips the mirror over and hits him. Yeah. It zooms out so you see the whole boat. You hear the scream. Oh my gosh. No. I just like they're mostly just like character moments of Indiana Jones, right? Because he is just such like a fascinating and hilarious like character. Yeah. So all those parts are what I think is the really cool stuff.
I think because they capitalize on that. I think more like in Last Crusade. That's why I think I enjoyed it more. Yeah, totally. I always wanted there to be more of that in this film. Yeah,
they play. Yeah, in Last Crusade they play off each other so well because Sean Connery's playing this like totally straight laced like here's what you get, and Harrison Ford gets to always bounce off of that in different crazy ways. And the whole thing with like. I don't want to spoil another movie. the like shared love interest thing, that whole thing.
Oh God,
that's hilarious. Just because the way they play it, it's just like well, what?
Like, kind of a double take sort of thing.
Yeah,
she talks in her sleep. It's like, wait.
Wow. Yeah. So there are. I mean, just for the record, there were moments I really truly liked.
Yeah.
It's just thinking about it now, I think the problem was whenever they had the Nazis on screen, they were not believable. In any form that they try to present them as. They weren't believable as scary. They weren't really funny, at least not in an intentional way.
Yeah.
They were just these like over-the-top caricatures of like, oh, they're evil people and like...
Which is really often how the Nazis were portrayed at the time, too.
Yeah.
Which
I get that at the time.
Now they're not, they're often portrayed as much more, serious or scary villains, but they're very... bumbling and cartoonish, I think, a lot of that.
Which is crazy because it's just there's nothing cartoonish about that period of time, right? It's just like, it's such a weird juxtaposition of like the reality versus like the cartoon. I mean, maybe that's how they made it palatable.
But I don't know. I think that's how the media was at the time, though, So I want to get you guys' opinion on, so one major criticism that's leveled at Raiders is that if Indiana Jones was not present in the movie at all, it would end the same way, which is that the Nazis would get the Ark, they would take it to the island and open it, and they would all die. And so he actually is not necessary for the plot of the movie to happen at all.
Would it make it back to the museum?
Well, no, that wouldn't happen. But the Nazis would...
And it wasn't even the museum. It was top men, whatever.
I did love
such
that
a famous line too.
I love that very, very final scene where they're reeling this box and then it slowly pulls back. And it's just this like, epically enormous warehouse full of identical boxes like that.
So as somebody who has never seen the movie before and missing this whole chunk of like popular culture, is the implication that they have other things of equal importance spread out through this entire warehouse?
I think so.
Okay. All right, good.
Have you seen The Crystal Skull?
Yes.
So you've seen...
I mean, long time ago. Whenever it was in theaters, yeah.
Well, have you seen The Crystal Skull? Okay. I mean, they pay it off in The Crystal Skull. Like the first scene of The Crystal Skull actually takes place in that warehouse.
Oh, I did not
know that. They knock over one of the boxes and the Ark's in it in one of the scenes.
I totally forgot
It's like a really quick cut. It's
I almost want to watch the movie now.
No, you don't.
You would, yeah. I don't know.
Maybe watch like the first 5 minutes, just enough to see the warehouse thing. Because it's supposed to be Area 51. And so it's like...
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense now. Yeah.
But see, this is more the theme of like, the fourth, Crystal Skull is totally a 50s comic book.
Yeah.
Area 51, the bad guys are Soviets. It has to do with space
nuclear
aliens.
explosion.
Nuclear explosion. Like it's totally, The kid, they got the greasers. What's Shia LaBeouf is like the kid on the motorcycle. It's absolutely like a 50s kind of thing. Yeah. So tons of pop culture references.
So here's my question: because Disney bought Lucas, are they going to do another?
Ooh, man.
And would you want them to?
Was Crystal Skull?
Can J.J. Abrams direct it?
Yeah, seriously. What's that?
Was Crystal Skull a success?
Financially, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, not for fans or critics or anything.
But neither was Temple of Doom. It was not a critical success either. But it was a financial success.
I think I'm sure there's an audience out there for it. So in the same way that there is for Star Wars. I mean, the most recent Star Wars that were made were not highly regarded either. They made a ton of money based on the name. I can't imagine they wouldn't break even, at least, right? I mean,
that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
They would. They would have to have somebody else be Indiana.
It'd be like Lost, right?
And it can't be Shia LaBeouf. What the hell do you say his name?
LaBeouf?
LaBeouf?
I think it's LaBeouf.
I don't know. We know
he's the kid from Transformers.
Yeah, we are nothing experts in pronouncing French names.
But who would be the new Indiana Jones, right? Because they kind of set it up in the Crystal Skull.
I think they would accidentally kill him off or something.
I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
That's the worst.
Well, I would just spoil the Crystal Skull for anybody who doesn't want to know the plot twist at the end of the Crystal Skull.
All actors have picked him?
I know.
I think they saw him as doing. So he did it in Transformers. He did the action comedy thing as well, and I think that's what they saw in him. For Spielberg, I think it is the deal there.
Spielberg did Transformers?
No, that's Michael Bay.
Oh no, I think he produced it or something. He was involved in the first one. Yeah. I will bet you lunches for the next 2 weeks that he was involved in the first one.
Whoa, confident. Should we check on?
I don't know if he was he's producer or something like that.
Oh, he is executive producer. Oh, you should have thought of something good.
I see sushi in my future. Anyway, so yes, so that's where I found Shia LaBeouf when he worked on the new one.
Fair enough. Okay.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think they would, if you were in the position of Disney having this property, would you not? Plus, there's the Indiana Jones rides at the park.
Actually, you know what? Strangely enough, I would have. Was it Brad Bird that did Mission Impossible 4? I'd have him do it.
That's a great idea, actually. Yeah. But who would you cast?
That's the tough question.
Would you do a reboot, or would you keep going with the series?
Oh man, I think I would reboot it, but I would set it in modern times. I wouldn't do a 30s.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Do you think? I thought that was part of the charm of the movie. Was that the 30s?
It is a little bit, but I think you could still do. Right. Well. Yeah.
Would they? Would you go full?
I basically want Uncharted. I know, right? I just want that to be a movie. Can we just do that?
Well, they are doing Uncharted 4. Nathan Drake, whatever his name is. I don't know his name. I mean, I can't think of his name right. Nolan North.
No, not the voice actor.
Nathan Fillion?
Yes. Yes.
That's what I was thinking.
Spot on.
Actually, that would be. I don't know. I think it'd be too campy. Maybe. Could he do the?
I think he'd be perfect.
I think he's the best possible candidate.
Yeah.
Do
you like Firefly?
70 years old. What?
Do you like Firefly?
Not really.
I thought it was okay. I actually didn't finish it. I know I'm losing like all my internet cred points.
Well, no, the end was the best.
The end was the best.
I
saw the movie.
It was so hard for me to make it through like the first 2/3, and then the last third of the season. I'm like, well, actually, this is getting good. Like I can actually get into this.
And then it gets killed.
and then I like the movie a lot.
Yeah.
The
movie's pretty good.
Yeah, I like other things he's done. Yeah. I loved him in Dr. Horrible. Well, actually, I hated him in Dr. Horrible, but I mean that was the point,
character, right?
Exactly.
No, I think actually in Indiana Jones, I mean, Uncharted is essentially Indiana Jones, but in modern times. But I think it actually captures a lot of the charm. For me, the charm is like the globetrotting sort of aspect to it, and like the idea that, you know, just off the beaten path is like some amazing mystery, like just waiting for you to find if you just turn over the right stone. And I think that's.
But I feel like the 30s is like that's a tail end of when there was like exciting, uncharted parts of the world to find.
Yeah. Absolutely,
you know.
Yeah, I agree.
At the end of the Great Age of Exploration or whatever, it's the Golden Age of Exploration or whatever. Yeah.
We'd already explored all the interesting parts.
I bet what I'm picturing is if they released just a teaser, like literally just the soundtrack and the logo, people would lose their shit.
It would just be like the hat and then the whip sound effect, and that's it. And it'd just be like all the money.
If they knew, seriously, if they knew who the director was and they knew it wasn't going to be a repeat of Crystal Skull, you know, if they knew it was somebody that they could trust, people would lose their shit.
People are like losing their minds over.
That's what I'm saying. If they did it with Indiana Jones, I think they could. They could have that level of, maybe not Star Wars level of crazy, but something up there.
There'd be nitpicking for sure. Yeah. I'd probably be in line to do some of the nitpicking, but it would still be awesome. Please, somebody Disney.
Which camera can do that?
This one. Disney, make this happen. Brad Bird, Nathan Fillion.
Brad Bird, yes. We know people will call them.
Actually, you call them. They'll answer your calls.
Why are we whispering?
You don't want to scare the Disney execs. They're very shy.
Good point.
Yeah.
See you next time.
My parents' dog apparently now has a hoodie. The premise of the movie is that Indiana Jones is a archaeologist. And he teaches archaeology at, I think, Stanford. And
I saw they were flying over the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah,
like,
and
that was Stanford.
I think so. Yeah.
Right. It did not look like Stanford to me.
Maybe not. It's also supposed to be the 1930s Stanford, so I don't know. But anyway.
I thought he was like in Princeton or something.
No, it's definitely California because they flew out of San Francisco.
Yeah.
Wait,
he's an archaeology professor. Maybe it is Berkeley.
So I forgot to edit this out. Sorry.
Is it Berkeley? Is that Berkeley's campus?
It just did not at all look like Stanford's campus.
I mean, it's probably not going to look like Berkeley either, honestly.
Marshall College. I don't know where that is. Maybe it's fictitious. He's a professor. We'll edit this out.
Anyway, he's in California, for sure.
So let's back up.
What?